think he is unwell and is unable to come, and will come at a later date. So we did think that we maybe could have asked Brian Fee to give his talk about himself, but he was in hospital when Bill phoned to ask him. So I don't want you to think you were a last choice.
No, should be there.
But Mr. and Mrs. Waddell have
Straight at the bottom of the barrel. That's what it was.
yes,
That's
at
it.
the last
Thank you,
minute.
David. You're supposed to be supporting us
I
here.
know, I know. and at the last meeting, we did get a wee tiny idea about your trip.
Yeah.
But I think it would be good for everybody, whether he's away now, I think it would be good for everybody if we could hear a lot more about your trip to
No
Australia
problem.
and also your trip to Australia on Rotary business. So I don't know who's going to speak, or if it's a joint enterprise.
It's going to be a joint exercise.
Okay.
I'm just going to do a wee introduction, and then John's going to do the boring bit. Don't record that bit, about the some of the stuff that happened at the convention, and then I'm just going to do a wee bit of the kind of fun stuff that we did as part of our holiday. So for those who are not aware, the 2023 convention was held in Melbourne, Australia. It was actually held it started on Thursday, the 25th of May, and finished on Wednesday, the 31st of May. However, the first few days were about registering that you were at the conference and getting some details about where things were going to be happening. So the first few days, certainly, John and I didn't attend till the Saturday when we went to the exhibition centre to kind of record that we were here and get our necessary badges, etc., etc. The convention itself was held over 2 areas within Melbourne. The main sessions, which tended to be in the morning, were in the Rod Laver Arena, which was quite interesting because obviously the stage was at the up front of the main playing area. However, it didn't look like that because obviously there was loads of seats and etc., etc. So it was quite interesting, but I think John will probably cover a wee bit about what happened with in these few days. It's quite interesting when I'm watching the Australian Open next year. I'll be able to say I was sitting on that line. We were where our seats were on the sort of back line, so I'll be able to point that out and be quite proud that's where we were sitting. So I'm going to hand to John first of all, and he's going to do some of the information and some of the topics that we covered at the convention. So it's over to you, darling.
Thank you very much, dear. Right, I'm going to for me or not. Can you screen share, Laura?
You're on mute, Laura.
Muted. You're muted.
I was panicking there, don't worry. Right, so I am not sure that I can do that, but if I've got you on speaker view,
right. If
so
you
can.
If you go to the bottom of the screen and click share screen,
right,
right, it gives you the options to allow somebody else to do it.
Right, so it just says one participant can share at a time, and I've clicked on multiple participants can share simultaneously.
Yeah,
so you should be able to do that, I think.
That's it. I should be able to tell you in a second once it comes up.
Yep, good, that's it.
That's fine, because I was going to say if you can't share, there's not going to be much to the presentation. Hey!
Anyway, right, 2 seconds, I'll get this tidied up on the screen. So that look. Right, as Joyce said, we were there, obviously we arrived in Australia a week or so before the convention started on the Sunday the 28th. The theme, as you can see here, I'm trying to move things about my screen a wee bit, see if I can, it's better. The Imagine What's Next. Obviously, last year's theme was Imagine Rotary, and they're trying to, Jennifer's lead-in was to encourage us to think of where we go from here, and a lot of the themes surrounded that. So the first day, the opening session was Imagine Hope, and that was the theme behind that particular session at the Rod Laver Arena. The convention itself started off with a general welcome by our two hosts from Iceland, mother and daughter, both Rotarians, and the lead into the various bits and pieces that took place thereafter was basically set by them. The first main part of it was what we call the flag ceremony. They bring in, parade in all of the flags from all of the countries that Rotary has a connection with. So you're talking, I think there was something like 195 out of 208 flags brought in. As well to join them rather than be stuck here in the UK. So they moved out there a couple of years ago. So after the flag ceremony, Jennifer, president as was of the Rotary International, she came on and gave a rundown of the events of the last year, and obviously grateful for the opportunity that she had to be the RI president for that period of time. She then led us into some of the entertainment. The first lot where, well, the first one was an entertainer, opera singer from Canada, who entertained us for 20-25 minutes or so, and then there was a slight break, and after that the three tenors. It's a quartet of tenors from Canada again. Obviously Jennifer's from Canada, so there's a lot of connections there. They come on, and latterly they were tremendous. The atmosphere within the stadium was quite magnificent. The seating area took up about, I would say, probably about 3/4, if not more, of the seats available. Obviously, the stage is at one end of the arena, and the seating looked towards that. But there was drop-down TV screens, so there's nobody, unsighted as to what was going on stage. I'm not sure how many people the centre holds, but I'd imagine it was somewhere there's 20 to 25,000. So imagine it, 3/4 of the seating available, and it was almost full. So better part of 20,000 there. Anyway, towards the end of the event, the tenors were competing with each other to woo Jennifer with "O Sole Mio." So she was quite flushed at the end of it, as could have been seen on the screen. She was quite red in the face, but it was an exceptionally good event. Following on from that, we went down to the MC MCC, not the cricket ground, the convention centre. The session down there continued with the House of Friendship being opened, and the various stalls. You could go around asking various stall holders there as to what their input was. There were people from Shelter Box, various water aid, and the Rotary fellowships. I didn't realise there was a Rotary fellowship or a fellowship for just about anything you could possibly think of, and they were all there demonstrating their wares. I forced myself to taste some Japanese whiskey, so it was quite enjoyable. The distance between the two venues, which is probably the only off-putting thing about the convention itself, was there's about somewhere in the region of 3 to 4 kilometres between the Rod Laver Arena and the conventions, the exhibition centre. So it's a bit of a hike, more so for Joyce and me, because I managed to get a hold of an electric buggy, which Joyce had to do a bit of walking, and we made very liberal use of the train lines while we were there. So the session on the Monday centred around Imagine Our Dream. I've slightly ahead of myself here. Imagine Our Dream, where the presentations were basically around what is Rotary's potential, what can we do, what could we do, and obviously the ability to carry out a lot of these things, not just is prohibited in part by financial restrictions, but also by the willingness and the ability of the people who we work alongside. So that was the main event for the Tuesday. So I'm going to jump back a bit. On the Sunday night, we got together with all of the RGB&I attendees. We've taken over the first floor of a public house near Flinders Street train station, and met up there with several others. I even get standing chatting away to one or two of them, and I get slapped in the back by the incoming RI President Gordon to say hello, and then he went off to see everybody else. A very busy session. So moving on to the Tuesday, Imagine Change was the theme for the day, and the kind of thrust behind that was to try and get people to amend the way that they work with our partner agencies, try to find out how well they could get on with the groups of people that we do engage with, and to establish better communication with them. So that was the Tuesday session. Closing session was on the Wednesday afternoon, as opposed to the mornings, and the theme for the closing session was Imagine Our Future, and this is where Jennifer stood up. We've got umpteen photographs we could have put up here, but you'd have been getting scarily-eyed watching them all. But there's, as I said, we've got dozens and dozens of pictures. The difficulty being so far away from the stage that quite a lot of them were a little bit blurry, as you can see from Gordon's picture here. So the closing session, Imagine Our Future. So Jennifer introduced Gordon, and he then went on to talk about the major thrust behind this speech was to talk about the foundation and also to talk about End Polio Now. Nope. The foundation aspect of it, he was reiterating yet again that foundation is Rotary's charity. I mean, we might be involved with various charities throughout the world, but foundation is our charity, and was asking that people would support the foundation to make sure that it is still viable. He is hopeful that in the not too distant future, our contributions that will, this is the ones that we generate income from, will exceed $2.2 billion. So that give you an idea of what is there. That's the money that comes back to the foundation itself through dividends and interest. All that money is invested. It's not being spent. The money that's spent is the money that's contributed by the clubs and individuals. So End Polio Now, he did remind us that it's nearly at an end, and to try and ensure that we continue with the contributions and don't think that it's almost over. We don't have to pay into it anymore to try and maintain the vaccination programme. Trying to find the right button here. Page down, page down, page down. No, it's not working. Page down. Nope. Not dead too fast. Gordon was on stage latterly towards the end of the session as well, along with his whole family, and he gave a presentation on his hopes for the year ahead, and hopefully that we will be able to, excuse me, be involved with his team and create hope in the world. So the emphasis he was putting on the speech was to do with mental health and mental health awareness. I don't know if anybody in the grouping here just now, Gordon lost his brother about 7 or 8 years ago. He took his own life through depression, and he is obviously wanting us to be aware of that and to, where we can, engage with people to help with mental awareness, or mental health awareness. This is Joyce sitting on the baseline in the Rod Laver Arena, looking towards the stage. The lady sitting beside her on her right was from, Joyce is going to remind me, America?
No, she was Australian.
She was Australian? Right.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Can't
remember which club.
Can't remember, I can't make out her badge there. But so while they were sitting at the back there, enjoying all of that, I got a text from the district governor, Gail, to say why were we in the VIP seats, because she was still up in the body of the kirk over Joyce's left shoulder, and as a result of that, we were treated like royalty. And it just so happened we went in a different door, and one of the stewards says, "Oh, just come this way, just go this way," and then we ended up on the main floor. So we weren't up in the dress circle or up in the gods. So that was us. Anyway, I'll let Joyce take over because I'm starting to get a croaky voice.
Thank you, dear. Thank you, dear. I thought we would start off with a nice relaxing picture. As you know, apart from being in Melbourne, John and I spent some time in Perth and Brisbane as well. So this photograph is taken in a small town south of Perth called Busselton. and my sister had organised a couple of nights away in the resort. It was a beautiful, beautiful setting, and this was just about coming down for sunset. We were having a walk along the beach before we went for dinner, and as I say, a beautiful little town. John, you want to put the next slide up? One of the main attractions in Busselton is the Busselton Jetty. Now, this jetty goes for 1.7 kilometres out to sea. So this train runs on a regular basis. And I think it took us about half an hour from the start of the journey till you get to the end of the pier. And of course, when you get to the end of the pier, they've got the obligatory little shop, sovereigns, grab a coffee. But they also have an underwater observatory, which I believe is really, really quite exciting to see. However, my two fellow companions went in and bought the tickets for the train and didn't buy the tickets for the observatory, so I was a wee bit annoyed that we didn't get that opportunity. However, as you're going out in the train, if you're lucky, unfortunately we weren't that day, you can see dolphins, stingrays and a variety of other sea life as you go out. John and I were quite fortunate when we got on the train to do the outward journey. One of the many volunteers came and sat in our little carriage. So we got a lot of interesting information about how the bridge was built, how it's run by volunteers, etc. And then on the way back, she said, well, I'll just come and join you again. So it was lovely just being able to get a wee bit more insight of what it was all about. Again, as I say, one of these things that was all run by volunteers, but also it gave John and I the opportunity to tell this lady a wee bit about why we were in Australia and a bit hopefully maybe Busselton have got a new member, because she seemed certainly very interested in what Rotary did. Next one, John. So as I say, I think I mentioned that most of our time was spent in Perth. This is just a view of Perth city itself. And this picture was taken from a place called Kings Park, believe it or not. I know we've got a Kings Park in Glasgow, so it's quite interesting. Kings Park, it's a beautiful park. It's over about 988 acres, so it's huge. If you go further into the park itself, you can just see where, you know, at the right hand side there, the Swan River. And if you go further into the park, you can get some fantastic views of the river, looking all the way down to Fremantle. They have got a beautiful State War Memorial as well in the park, which is a beautiful, well-designed memorial. Again, if you have a walk through the park, you'll find multitudes of different flowers, trees, bushes, and they were prepared, when we were there, they were preparing for a light festival, which unfortunately was going to start the day we were flying home, so we didn't get an opportunity to see it, but it looked as if it was going to be absolutely fantastic. So also I mentioned earlier, and we don't have any photographs unfortunately, one of the trips we did in Perth was to go to Rottnest Island, which is again an island It's about it's just west of Fremantle. It's an island, and it's not. It is a reasonably small island. It's about 19 kilometres wide. Am I correct, John? Roughly about that. It has got an Aboriginal background. So a lot of the interesting sites that they see, we took a bus tour around the island, is all based around originally from way back to the Aboriginals. And they actually also have a prison on the island, which we believe housed Aboriginals up till after the Second World War. So it's not that long that they were actually put in prison there. It's also famous for little animals called quackers. Now, they're quite hard to describe. Some people would say they're like big rats, but they're actually, they dominate the island, I would say. And when you go into the small sort of shopping area, they're walking about all the time, but a lot of the shops have what you would call is like a half door to stop these animals actually coming into shops and restaurants. So yeah, and I believe the main thing when you're there is to take a selfie, which I think we do have one somewhere, but I think it must be on somebody's phone because we couldn't find it to show you. We also, if you want to put the next slide on, John, we had a part of our trip was to Brisbane, and we obviously have been in Brisbane several times, but John's cousin took us up to Mount Cravat. And we found this placard. Mount Cravat is an area, one of the highest areas in Brisbane, and when you go up there, you can look out and you can, in a clear day, unfortunately we didn't, it wasn't terribly clear the day we were there, and you can look out and see Brisbane for quite a wee bit, and these what's the word I'm looking for? Viewing binoculars were donated by the Rotary Club of Mount Cravat, so we thought that was quite an interesting one. Next one, John. One of our other time spent obviously at the convention in Melbourne, but obviously we were spending time with family, so we'd had a few days out, and this was one of our days out, and this is a place called Arthur's Seat, which is in the outskirts of Melbourne, and as you can see they've got a sort of cable car gondolas. Now, bearing in mind that I'm not very good with heights, this is actually 314 metres above sea level, so it was quite high up. So I had a few reservations of actually getting on it in the first place. However, John was under the pain of death not to move. He did try to stand up a few times to take photographs, which then made the gondola kind of rock a wee bit. So he was one of our other treats when we were in Melbourne was to go to an Aussie rules football game at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. Now, I don't know if anybody has ever watched Aussie rules football. My sister, who lives in Perth, is a West Coast Eagles diehard. I think that's the only word I can describe. Everything she does is all around Aussie rules football. So we'd watched several games, I have to say, on the television before we went to this one in Melbourne. and I just found it very confusing. However, when we went on the Friday night to the live game, it actually was so much better seeing it live. You could understand it a wee bit. I'm still a bit confused about a lot of how the rules are. And I believe they change the rules sometimes on a yearly basis. Why they do that, I do not know. But it was a fantastic atmosphere, and as you can see where we were sitting right in the middle of the stadium, so we had an absolutely fantastic view. So I would recommend, if anybody is ever in Australia, to go to a game, because it really was fantastic atmosphere as well. No separation of fans, no issues, everybody, you know, all pally. So no, it was interesting, and I would certainly recommend it to anybody. Now,
before
yes.
you move on from that, just to give you an idea of the size, this ground it just started to fill up. We were there quite early. The ground holds 120,000. So I'll give you an idea. It's more than double the size of Parkhead from a seating point of view. So it's a huge ground. Anyway, thoroughly enjoyable.
Okay, so before we get on to the next slide, Laura said at the very beginning that we were going to be recording this. Now, can I request that this next slide in some way is deleted, because I really don't want everything.
The Rotary theme for this year, create hope in the world. And that's us.
Okay.
You can ask as many questions as you like, whether you get answers or not is another matter. You're muted, Laura.
Okay, any questions for Joyce and or John?
John, did you wear your kilt?
No.
I didn't, no. The reason for that was we'd been out a good few years ago. Joyce's one of her sister's daughters get married, and I took my kilt out for that, and it takes up so much of your luggage. You just wouldn't believe it. If you take a jacket and a kilt out, your weight wise, it's taking up a heck of a lot of your luggage allowance. So we decided not to. But I have challenged the RI president to find out how many kilts you can get on stage in Singapore next year.
There's one here anyway.
Yeah.
Well, John will be taking his.
Well, John, the reason I asked that question, back in the Calgary Convention, a long time ago, 1996, when we were there to sell Scotland for the convention the following year in Glasgow, I was approached by an actual photographer looking for people to jump from a bench wearing the kilt. And I thought, no, so I named two other people. Now, they only managed to get one of them. I thought, right, I'm stuck. So the important thing was jump, but keep your hand down to hold the kilt down. Well, next morning, going to the convention, the daily newspapers are in a stand, and the front page of them is shown on the stands, and you just pop your money and buy them. And someone said to me, Bill, you're on the front page of the paper. And there I was showing a little bit of my thigh.
As long as that was all you were showing.
That was all. It was all I was showing. Yeah. So there was quite a number of comments. Some were hilarious. Some people said that I'd let Rotary down. I said no. I just let Rotary show how human we are, and we can have a bit of fun.
Enjoy. So you enjoy yourself. Well, you mentioned Calgary. Calgary 2025 conventions back there 2025.
Right. Well, that was a fantastic one, and out there.
So despite your behaviour, they let us back again.
They
You're trying to be the
did,
Flying
and
Scotsman or something, Bill.
it was it was some years later. It was the late Ronnie Young. Someone from somewhere else in the world had sent him a copy of this photograph, and asked if I'd had it, and I said yes, I've got a copy.
You do realise if you go back, Bill, they'll be looking for you.
Yeah.
Oh, the legs have changed.
Mm.
Anybody else, anything for John or Joyce? No. Okay.
Talking about Melbourne, give you some memories there about Arthur Seat. You can say that down to Morningtown. Of course, that was the old song by the New Seekers, Morningtown Ride, which is down the other end of the coast there. And my late wife's relatives are all in the Melbourne area, so it was it's really good. Yeah, great city.
Yeah, it's lovely. All the 3 cities are lovely. They've all got their quirky, nice bits. You know, it's like every big city. There's always some really nice attractions, no matter where you go. Yeah.
We met up with the district governor in Perth before we went before we got to Melbourne.
All right.
Yeah, for lunch.
And then met up with her and Ian late morning in Perth itself. So it was quite enjoyed meeting up before we headed over to Melbourne.
Yeah, and it turned out the few days that we were in Bustleton, Gail and Ian were at Gail's family, and they were only about 10 minutes away from us. So we didn't realise that till we got back, how close we were to each other. So.
Good.
Okay, well, can I thank the 2 of you then, first of all, for stepping in at the last minute.
Not a problem.
Also for giving us a 2-centre type talk there, both hearing about the convention, which was interesting to us all, and hopefully Gordon McAnally then this year will do great things, and representing Scotland is a great thing that he's doing there. But also the fact that the 2 of you were able to take the opportunity when you had gone so far to have a good holiday with family. Again, sorry Elizabeth, do you want to say something there? I'm ignoring you. No, you're giving them a wee clap, that's okay. So thanks very much, the 2 of you, for standing in, and we really enjoyed hearing from both of you about your visit. So thanks very much, and we'll thank them in the usual way with a round of applause. Thank you. So I think not much else really about from the meeting that we have to do. The next meeting is on.
Laura, can I bring up? Laura,
Yes.
can I bring up things, because I'm a service chair of
Okay.
3 things, right?
Okay.
2-3 different things.
Okay.
We have been getting the newsletter from John Lafferty.
Yes,
Now-
I've got that on